No, Dad, this thing is turning out awesome. I do feel like it's missing some element though.
Yeah, I think we need to build some water towers, Ryan.
That's a great idea. I mean, you kind of only run steam locomotives, and they need water to create that steam.
Yeah, I think we can fix that.
Cool. Well, let's get into it.
This is the mock-up that we came up with based on internet research, some videos, some photos from amusement parks that we've been at, to kind of get an idea for a feel of what looked good. I just went with scale as far as what looked right based off of photos. It's all approximate. This was the first one I did. I kind of set the base at 6 inches and then went 6 inches on the tower. I think this is 5 inches. And it looks okay, but it's not exactly what I was looking for, which works out great as a mock-up because this was kind of the trial run. Here's the mostly finished product. There's a few final details that I need to put on it, but I changed a few things. You can see scale-wise, it's not quite as tall as this one was. The tank's a little bit bigger. I used cardboard to mock up the lid for this one, and that worked out. I wasn't sure if that was going to work out, so I just used cardboard to mock that up. That worked out great. So for the final product, built this one out of 040 styrene and then reinforced it with some 010 styrene on the inside at the seams, and then added some additional bracing inside. This is just some chain from a hobby store. This is a couple of flexi straws, and then this is all the wood is cedar fence board that's just been ripped to, again, close to dimensional stuff so that it looks cool. So I'm just marking out the lengths of our lumber that we're going to use for our water tank for skinning the pipe for the water tower. So the first thing we're doing is we're taking our 6-inch diameter pipe. We're going to take our wood plug that we cut out, and we're going to glue that into place here so that we have a solid circle. That way when we put everything together, everything will be nice and vertical. So that's what we'll do first. So we'll set this one off to the side and let it dry. And then we'll come back and we'll get going with putting on the siding. Okay, so before we get started putting the siding on here, I'm just going to take a square and give myself a nice vertical reference point so I get started with the slats nice and vertical and don't start skewed at all. So on the first one that I did, the section of pipe that I had was white. So before I jump to this step where we're putting the slats on, I went ahead and painted that black just so in these seams it was nice and dark. Okay, so we got the skin on the tank here. So the next thing we'll do is we'll hit this with some sandpaper and kind of clean it up, knock the hard edges down, and then we'll get to work on the legs and the support structure. Okay, so we're getting ready to start on constructing the platform here. So I've got the beams set out. I put a little dab of hot glue just to hold them in place on my little pad here. And what we're going to do is we're going to use some of the Tight Bond Ultimate interior exterior. We're going to put that on here, and then we're going to go ahead and lay our lumber that we cut earlier. We'll lay that across here, and then we'll let that dry. Okay, so we got this one laid out, glue's drying, so we're just gonna set this aside and we'll come back later. Okay, so while the deck's glued up and drying, we'll start building these bents here. We got 2 of the 4-post bents, and then we got 2 of the 2-post bents, so we'll get going on those. So I got them laid out on the mat here, and then we'll just put a cross brace that'll go in like that. And what we'll do is we'll use some of the exterior waterproof glue, but we'll also put a dab of hot glue on there so that we can keep this process moving. So these will be the vents that we just built. These will be these 2 vents here in the middle that'll carry everything. They'll mount to those posts that are on the deck that we built. So now we got to do 2 sections of 2 vents, and we'll have these all ready to go.
Here we're going to use some polystyrene to get the roof of it. So earlier we mentioned that the main slats here were made from 040, and then it was reinforced underneath with 010, and that's what the plan is here. And what we're going to do, these are 3 inches wide by 4 inches long, so we'll cut these at their 3-inch wide by 4-inch long, and then to get the point, we'll just find the center of 3 inches, which is 1.5 inches, and we'll do that all the way around, and then we'll cut our little angles, and that'll give us our perfect triangle to get this 6-inch diameter roof that we're going to do. Alright, so yeah, we got this cut down to 4 inches now. Now we're going to mark our 3-inch sections. Alright, so we got all those marked out and scored, so these will break off really easy. We need 8 of these in total to get the roof done. So now we need to get all of our 010 pieces for all of the reinforcements underneath. Now that we have all 8 of these cut and ready to go, we can take our 8 triangles and we're going to glue them together in pairs. But before we do that, we need to make sure we can get that bend in them. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these and we're just going to bend them in half. Alright, so we got all 8 of those bent in half, so it'll be a lot easier to get our roof tiles in the correct orientation. Let's get into that as well. Right, so the same thing, but we'll be doing this. Remember, these are all getting hidden, so they don't need to be perfect. There you go. There's your roof to go on to our water tower.
Okay, the glue's dried on our deck, so we're ready to glue on the bents that we made earlier. We got 2 of the 4-post bents. We've got 2 of the 2-post bents. We'll use the Titebond 3 exterior glue and a tack of hot glue, and we'll get this all put together. So we've got the bents attached to the deck now. So I'm gonna go through with a hobby knife and trim a couple of these braces. Stuck out just a little bit more than I like. If you like that, that's cool. If not, that's okay too. You can always add some pins for some extra details. But on this one, I'm just gonna knock those off, hit this with a piece of 120 grit sandpaper on just on some of the harder edges, knock off some of these burrs, and then I'm gonna put a coat of golden oak stain on it. I'll just use a 1-inch foam brush up here, and then for all this detail stuff, I got an old little paintbrush that I'll tuck in there. So that's what we'll hit next. Okay guys, we're back. We got our stain done, put a coat of sealer on it, just a satin. We don't want it to be too glossy. I hope to end up putting a stencil with the name of the railroad that I have on here. I haven't come up with a name yet, so we'll just leave it like this for now. But same thing with the base, got it stained, got a coat of sealer on it, so it doesn't look half bad. So what we're gonna do next, I'm gonna set this off to the side, bring back the one that we got finished. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna make this neck for the fill stem, and then we're gonna make these pieces of lumber, these beams, and the cross bracing. These are just things that I saw on photos that I saw on the internet. The illusion that out on the railroad, the locomotives stop and have to fill that tender with water each time we go through. But it's just a couple of bendy straws. So we're gonna cut those to length, get them glued together, hit them with a coat of paint. And then the other thing we need to do is we need to put these little eyelets in for the chain that would hold the spout. So when they're filling it, it'll have a couple counterweights and it would drop and then it would come back up. So we'll go to work putting that stuff together. What we'll do now is we'll cut these pieces of lumber, we'll get them glued up and get them glued on. So we got our bracing on, drilled a couple little pilot holes using my pin vise, and then we got the straws. I filled the end down here, and I drilled another tiny little hole in there because we'll put an eye bolt or an eye hook in there so that we can run this in, so we can have the chain hooked through those eyelets, grab this, so that way it gives the illusion that everything's holding it up mechanically. The chain is just some stuff I got at a hobby shop. It's probably a little bit out of scale, but again, the 3-foot rule, if it looks good from 3 feet away, it's good enough for what we're doing here. We're not building a fully functioning scale model. Here's the eye bolts, eye screws that we're gonna use here and here, and then in the top of the water spout, like our prototype that we built, just to run that chain through again, just to give the illusion that there's some mechanical stuff going on here. So we'll get going, we'll get this stuff installed. We'll get the water pipe here, the piping all painted black, and get it put together. So as you can see, we got the water filler spout on, we got everything all stained up, we got our eye bolts in, we got our chain on here. Again, to give it that mechanical-y look. We'll add more details later. We'll put a stencil with the railroad's name on it. But now we just got to put that lid on that we built earlier in the video out of styrene. we've built a few of them for the purpose of doing this video. One of the things we did was we painted the inside to black it out. You can kind of go with whichever color you like. There's a red one. Here's a kind of copper looking one. And here's a green one. So I think I'm gonna probably end up going with the red and the green ones on the railroad. The other thing you can add a water pipe down the middle. I did that on the prototype. I'm not gonna show that here. That's easy enough. You can use a dowel or another straw, some sort of tubing. It's not functional. So, and then a ladder maybe to access if somebody had to get up there. I built this one out of styrene tubing and 1/8 inch styrene rod. And it's a little bit tall, but you can get as detail oriented as you want with this, or you could keep it like this, 3-foot rule. If you're looking at it, it probably looks pretty cool. It looks better than not having one at all. So hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully maybe this inspires you to build something of your own or build one like this. These are gonna look great on the layout. Look alive.